everyone, it's Reagan and welcome back to another video. Today I'm really excited about the video topic. It's always fun to construct this list every year, and that is going to be my most anticipated book releases for 2021. Now, to be honest, there are so many books coming out this year, it's almost a little overwhelming. And due to the pure volume and just because I like making a list, I'm still going to be making seasonal videos where I go over my most anticipated book releases for that season. I still wanted to make sure to make a primary top books of the year that I'm personally really excited for. I also just wanted to call out that I didn't include any sequels or any second or third book in a series. So new Game of Thrones, new Name of the Wind, new Jade are not on this list, though don't worry, I'm very much anticipating them. I wanted to focus on either new series or debuts for this particular video. But before we dive into the books themselves, let's chat about this video's sponsor, which is Glasses USA. So I have been a longtime fan and longtime ambassador for Glasses USA, but if you guys are not familiar, they are essentially an online glasses seller, and they sell a huge variety of frames, both premium and lots of really affordable options. They have so many different styles to select from, and honestly, every single pair of glasses I own is from this site. They have free shipping, free returns, and they also have this really handy virtual try-on so you can kind of see different frames on your face. And because it's online, it's a lot more affordable than going into a traditional glasses store. And in fact, the 3 frames I got to kind of refresh my glasses wardrobe for the year are all really affordable and also, in my opinion, very cool and very, very stylish. So without further ado, let's dive into the frames themselves. The first one I have to show off might be my favorite, and it is the Muse 3278. I essentially have been on the hunt for kind of a very large, oversized pair of tortoise glasses. I also wanted to get a large pair of these glasses with the blue light coating because I wanted to wear them during work every day. I wanted a big pair of prescription glasses with blue light coating to help fight against some of my screen fatigue I face, and these completely fit the bill. They're really nice and lightweight. I love the color, I love the size, and I loved the price as well. They also have these in a few different colorways as well, but these are my first frames I picked up and I really like them. I just feel like they're a classic power frame, you know, like this and a turtleneck. I'm ready to be an art critic or something, but I really like these. I feel like they're perfect to stare at computer screens all day. The next pair is a little bit more trendy, let's say, and it is the Auto Bologna, and I got these in a clear frame with a silver rim, which I thought were just really, really fun. I've always been a really big fan of clear glasses. I feel like they go with everything, and they're also kind of they take up less face real estate, if that makes sense, but because these have kind of a wire frame effect, I feel like they have a really cool style, and I personally love a wire frame glasses, so I feel like this is a nice little spin on that. The size is great. These also have blue light coating. You can get blue light coating on any of your glasses on Glasses USA, which I think is amazing at no added cost, which is super, super handy. But yeah, I really like these. I think they're a lot of fun, and I just think they're, I don't know, stylish, if I dare say. And the last pair I got, I decided to be a little bit adventurous going into the new year, and these are the Amelia E. Veronique, and I got them in a really fun, almost cotton candy spring colorway. I just think they're just a little adventurous. I love the shape. They also have these in more traditional colors as well, like a tortoise, which kind of go with everything in your day-to-day, but I kind of wanted to get a more colorful and fun glasses. Also, given their price point, I felt like I was more comfortable kind of getting a more fun frame to kind of add to my glasses repertoire. I just think they're really, really happy, and I just think they'll go really well with neutrals and add a little bit of fun to my day-to-day. Those are the 3 frames I picked up from Glasses USA for the new year. Again, big shout out to them for sponsoring this video. We'll of course have all 3 of the frames I showed off linked down below, as well as a special offer to you guys if you're in the market for some glasses, which essentially gives you an additional markdown on their already very affordable prices online. So it's definitely an amazing place to check out and shop for frames, especially if you're looking to get some new stylish options for 2021. But without further ado, let's dive into the rest of the videos and my most anticipated books of 2021. All right, I won't lie, this list is definitely more first half of the year heavy, but that's given that a lot of books haven't really been announced yet for the later half of the year. Though I'll say there are so many incredible books coming out. I have them ordered as well in publication month, so let's just jump in for the month of January, starting with Persephone Station. This is a book that I already have pre-ordered. This is said to be a first book to a new space opera series and is said to be perfect for fans of, wait for it, Cowboy Bebop and The Mandalorian. I am a huge fan of both of those things, so I literally saw those two buzzwords and was like, all right, I'll buy. This is essentially set on a faraway planet that's kind of been viewed as backwater, useless to the general world galaxy organization until one corporation kind of sets its eyes on it for its natural resources. This story follows two main characters. One is a bartender at like a local pub who kind of like sees everyone come and go, and the other is an ex-Marine and is now kind of in control and in charge of a ragtag group of criminals and wayward assassins. I think they work on a job together and possibly kind of begin to confront this corporate power in space. It sounds like a lot of fun, and again, the parallels to Cowboy Bebop and The Mandalorian really sold me personally. I also hear this has a queer romance, and this comes out really soon on January 5th. The next book I have on my list is the Ruthless Lady's Guide to Wizardry. This is kind of a fun, fantastical historical fiction novel, again featuring and centering a queer romance. This is a story that centers on a down-and-out fire witch who joins forces with a gentlewoman to put an end to a deadly conspiracy. One of our main characters, Delaria Wells, is essentially a con artist and partially trained witch, and she's kind of very much down on her luck, but discovers that there is a job essentially protecting a rich young woman ahead of her marriage, and from there she kind of talks her way into this position and meets her other main character, Win. There she feels like she's found the perfect cushy job, pays well, there's great people to talk to, but very quickly she discovers that there's some sort of deadly conspiracy at play involving necromancers. This just sounds like a lot of fun. I love fantasy and kind of a historical setting combined. It kind of has the propriety in the dresses, but also adding humor and magic. It just sounds like it's going to be fun, funny, and very entertaining, and this comes out on January 12th. Next up is another book that I hope to read very soon and very early in 2021, and that is Remote Control by Nnedi Okorafor, and this comes out January 19th. This is a new release by this author whom I've read a few of her books and really enjoyed, and one of my goals for this year is to read more of her releases. But honestly, the tagline of this book absolutely sold me, and I'm just gonna read it to you because I honestly could not put it in better words, even if I tried hours at it. And it essentially, this says, an alien artifact turns a young girl into Death's adopted daughter in Remote Control, a thrilling sci-fi tale of community and female empowerment. She's the adopted daughter of the Angel of Death. Beware her, mind her, death guards her like one of its own. This is combining so many of my favorite things. I really love the concept of like death being an actual position, like a job, and then also the sort of connection between having people being trained for that occupation. I've read a few books that have used this before and I've always really, really enjoyed them. Nnedi Okorafor's writing is exceptional. This just sounds so intriguing. I'm hoping it's dark and gripping. And like I said, I already have it pre-ordered. So yes, this comes out January 19th and I cannot wait. The Frozen Crown by Greta Kelly, which comes out January 12th as well. This just feels like a very classic fantasy setup. It has a lot of tropes that I personally really, really enjoy. I'm curious about it as well to see if it kind of ups the ante on some of the classic tropes it's sort of presenting, because like on the surface it's not incredibly original, but that doesn't mean it can't be absolutely captivating if done really, really well. And I will say this book has quite a bit of hype coming up into the release. It has some really strong early reviews, which really has me intrigued. This is said to be a fantasy novel that's very political heavy, following a young heroine who's kind of coming into her power and into the crown, and she essentially has to navigate both internal politics to protect her and her kingdom, but also a powerful outside force. It's said to be clever and enthralling and full of magic. This is the first book to a duology that I'm hoping is just like a new classic in the making, let's say. But yeah, this is definitely on my list as well. All right, and the last book for January. January is a big month. It is a busy month, is Winterkeep by Kristen Cashore. I know I said I wasn't going to include any sequels or next books in a series, but I did decide to include this one because it's essentially the reboot of a well-known series, almost like the beginning of a new start within this world. So that's kind of why I decided to include it. But this is the fourth book to the Graceling series, one of my all-time favorite books growing up. I loved those. They were some of the first high fantasy stories I personally ever encountered. So when I saw they were kind of rebooting the series, I personally got really excited. This book takes place basically at the end of the events of the third book, and a new land is essentially discovered to the east. Bitter Blue sends an envoy there, and it's discovered that this place is full of magic. There are magical foxes that bond with humans. There are airships in the sky. But when the envoy never returns, Bitter Blue and a trusted spy travel there to kind of try to figure out what's going on. Again, this is just a book I'm personally really excited about given how much I loved the Graceling series growing up. I've also been wanting to reread Graceling for a long time, so this kind of feels like the perfect excuse to kind of catch up on the original world and anticipation of this upcoming release. But let me know if any of you guys are Graceling fans as well. That story still lives inside of me. It broke me when I read it in the 7th grade. I cried my eyes out. Now moving on to February, where I have one release, which is the Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. Now, this book sounds incredible. It is a new YA fantasy debut, and the concept and like the opening lines just immediately drew me in. It just makes me feel like this is going to be a very intense, very fast-paced story. This follows our main character Decca, who at the beginning of the story is very much anticipating an upcoming blood ceremony, which would allow her to become kind of a full-fledged member in her community. She has a lot of anxiety around this though. She's kind of already viewed as an outcast for her unnatural intuition. When the ceremony comes around though, instead of her blood running red, which would allow her to become a part of the group, her blood runs gold, which essentially outcasts her immediately and curses her to a fate worse than death. So when a mysterious woman appears out of nowhere and offers her an alternative choice to run away from her home and join a group of young warrior women, she takes her chances at a second life. Again, the concept of this book, just the setup and opening of this book just sounds so intense. This sort of demigod warrior group of women fighting for the emperor just sounds so intriguing. I feel like it's gonna have magic and adventure, maybe some romance. Just sounds so good, and I cannot wait for it to come out. Next up, I have my first release for March, and that is Lost in the Neverwoods by Aiden Thomas. I read Aiden Thomas's debut novel in 2020, which was Cemetery Boys, and I loved it so much. So I was thrilled to realize he's having another book come out very early in 2021, which I imagine is going to be full of magic and is hopefully sweet, but I'll say this sort of synopsis sounds a little darker than Cemetery Boys, which is totally fine, and I'm excited for it nonetheless. I won't lie, the synopsis kind of gives me Peter Pan vibes. Maybe it's just the names, maybe it's just about boys getting lost in the woods, I'm not sure. But it's been 5 years since Wendy and her two brothers went missing in the woods, but when other children in the town begin to go missing as well, like a larger mystery begins to unfold. This is said to be super atmospheric. I'm sure it has wonderful writing and character work. Even from what I've read from Aiden Thomas in the past, this just sounds like something I will love. I love atmospheric YA mysteries, and this just sounds like it's gonna fit the bill perfectly. Cannot wait for this book to come out. The next book I have is The Unbroken by C.L. Clark, and this comes out March 23rd. This is the first book to a new fantasy epic, possibly. The synopsis sounds very captivating. I've also seen this book grace many others, like most anticipated books of the year, so I feel like this is going to be a fantasy novel topping a lot of people's lists. But it's said to be an epic political fantasy like no other, about two women clashing in a world full of rebellion, espionage, and military might on the far reaches of a crumbling desert empire. Following Touraine, who is a soldier, and our other perspective is Luca, who needs a turncoat. So I imagine they work together to possibly overthrow something, maybe fall in love. It just sounds like it's going to be so political, but with lots of action, which is always my favorite combination. I also love this like decaying desert setting as well, almost like fantasy post-apocalyptic vibes. I'm not sure, but I'm just really intrigued by this. I'm trying to not read too deeply into the synopsis because I kind of want to be surprised as I go along, but from what I've seen in kind of the main headline, I am thrilled for this one. Now moving on to the month of April, I have Witches Steeped in Gold by Cyanon Smart. This is a Jamaican-inspired YA fantasy story which has the premise I am just so weak for. Two enemy witches who hate each other, who want to kill each other, but are forced to work together to defeat a different enemy. There's something about witches who hate each other but are forced to, like, you know, cooperate for a time being that I just live for. Like, it's just a trope I love. I love witch tropes in general, but this particular setup is one I just cannot say no to. They essentially despise, and they're incredibly different, but they're united within the story for vengeance. I just want this to be dark, bloody, full of vengeance and revenge, possibly people getting intoxicated by magic and power. I just feel like this is gonna be really good and just like the perfect YA mixture for me. I cannot wait. Now jumping all the way to June, I have For the Wolf by Hannah Witten that comes out June 15th. This is another book that just seems honestly kind of perfect for me. It's a historical fiction fantasy novel said to be great for fans of The Bear and the Nightingale and Uprooted or Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik, which are all some of my favorite books of all time. I love like an atmospheric fantasy book that's kind of inspired by folklore or fairy tales, which I feel like this definitely is that. And this is said to be a dark and sweeping tale about a young woman who has to be sacrificed to the legendary dark wolf of the woods to save her people and her kingdom. However, this legendary wolf is not everything that the stories say, and it's also not the only danger lurking in the woods. I honestly don't want to know much more. I hope it has wonderful writing and just kind of like a bizarre fairy tale setup. I will say, like, there's two lines that says the first daughter is for the throne, the second daughter is for the wolf. Cannot wait for this. I feel like it might be a fave, but we shall see. Speaking of favorites, the next book might be my most anticipated release for 2021, like new book, new series for me, though it's hard to say, but this might be it. And that is She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan, and this comes out July 20th. I don't know, just like the descriptors of this book and how it's kind of described in its marketing or in its synopsis, I just feel like this really might be it for me. This is said to be for fans of A Song of Achilles and Mulan. It's a sweeping fantasy novel that's also like really literary fiction-esque. So I think it has like a deeply rich historical backdrop and setting, but also has infusions of magic and fantasy within the tale itself. All of that just sounds like everything I want. Not to mention, I just have a feeling this is going to have beautiful writing, and just I love like kind of a mixture of like historical fiction and fantasy, kind of walking the line between reality and fanciful. It's just some of my favorite stuff out there. This is said to be a lyrical reimagining of the rise of the founding emperor of the Ming Dynasty, and in full honesty, I just can't wait for this book. Like, cannot wait. Cannot wait. I feel like this is going to be incredible. The next book that's on my list, I like honestly almost cried reading the synopsis because I just know how heartwarming this book is going to be, and that is Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. This comes out September 21st. I read The House on the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune last year and loved every single page of that book. It made me cry and laugh. It's just one of the most heartwarming reads out there, and because of that, TJ Klune has become like an automatic read, automatic buy author. And this book just sounds just as whimsical and magical as that, but a new setting and new characters. The synopsis of this book is, when the Reaper comes to collect our main character Wallace Price, he realizes that he really in fact might be dead. But the Reaper takes him to this sort of outskirts of a town and to a tea shop run by a man named Hugo, who is not only, you know, running his tea shop, but he's also the ferryman for the dead. But Wallace isn't quite ready to leave his life behind, and with Hugo, he begins to realize there might be more to life than he's lived before. I just feel like this is gonna be full of romance and second chances and just, I don't know, it just sounds already like a warm hug. It might be a little more emotional given the inclusion of death as a concept, but I'm sure it's just going to be so good and whimsical, and I cannot wait to read it. All right, we're on the last two books of this video. Both of them kind of have fall 2021 release dates, so the dates of these could change. The first one is Jade, Fire Gold by C.L. Tan, which I actually heard about on Erin's channel, Booked and Busy, which if you haven't checked her out, I will leave a link to her videos down below. She reads incredible sci-fi and fantasy. Her book taste is amazing, so definitely check out her channel. This is going to be a new epic dual POV YA fantasy story inspired by East Asian mythology and folk tales. It's said to be for fans of Ember in the Ashes, which we all know is one of my favorite YA, series of all times. I hope this is going to be full of magic and history and angst and great romance. It's also said to be for fans of Avatar: The Last Airbender, which, like, honestly, say no more. The tagline is her destiny, his revenge. Can't wait for this book. And the last book on my list is Empire of the Vampire by Jade, again with a kind of vague release date of fall 2021. I went back and forth on including this, but if I'm actually looking at the pieces of this book, I am honestly pretty excited about it, given mostly I just love vampires as a paranormal fantasy trope. And I'm really honestly kind of interested to see how Jade imagines vampires in a fantasy novel. He tends to have really gruesome, dark, and bloody stories, so I feel like his writing could really suit vampires as a trope in general. And I believe the concept of this is vampires took over and control the world. 27 years have passed since the last sunrise, and for almost 3 decades, the creatures of the night have walked the day without fear. And we follow within the story a character named Gabrielle de Leon, who I believe is one of the last members of an ancient group of knights who are dedicated to defending the realm and defeating vampires. They've all been mostly destroyed, given vampires now rule and control everything. Through this tale, I think we follow this main character through his childhood, through his adulthood, on his epic journey of revenge, destruction, being a savior. Who knows? It sounds kind of cool. I love that it kind of has this sort of gothic medieval vibe to it, this order of knights. I'm intrigued and I'm excited to see as more reviews begin to come out as well, but I decided to include it on my list because I feel like I might like it quite a bit. Alrighty guys, those are my most anticipated book releases of 2021. Again, don't forget I'll have all of the glasses as well as the offer code from Glasses USA linked down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I will see you soon with another one soon. Goodbye!